Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to Udan Carrier Institute once again. In today's class, we will continue with chapter 2, that is reproduction in angiospermic plants. Now, students, in the last class, we have started with pollination. We have completed the definition and types of pollination. Also, we have gone through self pollination, that is autogamy, geitonogamy, and xenogamy. We have also started with the agents for the pollination. In that, we have completed pollination by wind, that is anemophily. In today's class, we will continue with another agent for pollination, that is hydrophily. Now, both anemophily and hydrophily, they both belong to the class of abiotic agents. So wind and water pollination belongs to abiotic agents. So hydrophily is also a kind of abiotic agent. Now pollination which is taking place by water, it is rarely seen in case of flowering plants. Only about 30 genera and mostly monocotyledons, they undergo pollination by water. Now, if we recall earlier class, then in that case we know that water, it is a regular mode of transport for male gametes in case of lower plants such as algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes. So algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes, as you have studied in class 11, that in such kind of lower plants water is necessary for the transport of male gametes. Now some another examples of water pollinated plants are Vallisneria and Hydrilla, which are growing in fresh water, and several marine sea grasses such as Zostera. Now their stigmas, they are long and they are sticky. So these kind of plants such as Vallisneria, Hydrilla, Zostera, they have a long and sticky stigma. Now pollens of water pollinated plant species, they are protected from getting wet by a mucilaginous cover. So in such kind of water pollinated species of plants, the pollens are covered by a mucilaginous cover, and that's why they are resistant to getting wet. Now not all aquatic plants, they use water for pollination. So it is not necessary that if a plant is aquatic in nature, then pollination will take place by water only. In majority of aquatic plants such as water hyacinth and water lily, the flowers, they come above the level of water, and they are pollinated by insect, or they can be also pollinated by wind, as it happens in case of land plants. So it is not necessary that all aquatic plants, they will undergo pollination by water, but these plants, these aquatic plants, their flowers will come to the surface of water, and where they get pollinated by either by wind or by insects. Now in Vallisneria, the female flower, they reach to the surface of water because of long stalk, and the male flowers or pollen grains, they are also released on the surface of water. Now they are carried passively by the water currents, and some of the pollens, they eventually come and reach to the surface of female flowers on the surface of stigma, and hence the pollination would easily take place. So in case of Vallisneria, the flower reaches the surface of water, and the male flower or pollen grains also release the surface of water at the same time, and as a result the pollination can take place by water. Now there are another group of water pollinated plants such as sea grasses. Here in this case, the female flower, it is remaining submerged inside the water. So in contrast to Vallisneria, where the flower, female flower, comes to the surface of water, here in case of sea grasses, the flowers will be present inside water, and the pollen grains are also released inside water. So in such species, the pollen grains are long, ribbon like, and they are carried passively inside the water, and they reach the surface of stigma, and the pollination will take place. This kind of pollination is also known as hypohydrophily, because here the pollination is taking place inside water. Now both wind and water pollinated flowers, they are not very colorful and they do not produce nectar, Because here in both these cases, that is water and wind pollinated flowers, no insect are required for pollination, so there is no need to attract the insects for the process of pollination. And as there is no need to attract insects for the pollination, they are not colorful and they also do not produce nectar. So in case of hydrophily, there are two major important things which are necessary to remember. One is Vallisneria, how the pollination takes place in Vallisneria, that is, both the flower and the pollen they reach the surface of water, whereas in case of sea grasses, the pollination it takes place inside the water. Both flower and the pollen grains are present inside the water, and pollination will also take place inside the water. That is known as hypohydrophily. Now, moving forward towards another mode of pollination, that is known as zoophily. Now, in majority of flowering plants, there are range of animals which are used as pollinating agents such as bees, butterflies, flies, beetles, wasps, ant, moths, birds, sunbirds, hummingbirds, bats. These are all common pollinating agents, and these are a wide range of animals which are used as pollinating agents. Now, among all the animals, insect, particularly bees, they are the most common and dominant biotic pollinating agents. So zoophily, it belongs to the class of biotic pollination. So even larger animals, apart from bees, some larger animals also they carry out the process of pollination. Some primates such as lemurs, arboreal, tree dwelling rodents, reptiles, lizards, they are also reported as pollinators, so they also carry out the process of pollination. So apart from insect, large animals they also carry out the process of pollination. Often flowers of animal pollinated plants are adapted for particular species of animals also. So flowers are adapted as per the species of animals which carry out the pollination. Now, in case of entomophily, that is insect pollination, the flowers which are pollinated by insects, they are large, colorful, fragrant, and they are rich in nectar. So they have a bright color, they have fragrance, and they have nectar also. Now, when the flowers are small, they are present in the form of a cluster, which makes an inflorescence, and that's why it looks conspicuous. Now these flowers they have nectar glands. Now these animals or insects are attracted to the flower due to color or fragrance. Now the flowers pollinated by flies and beetles, they secrete some foul odor so that they can attract the animals also. That's why, due to these foul odors or due to the colors or fragrance, mostly insects are getting attracted towards the flower, and this is how the pollination would take place. Now, if you want the insect to come once again back, and if you want to continue this process of pollination, so if you want to sustain the animal or insect visits again and again, then in that case, flower should provide some reward to the insect also. Because if reward is not given, or if anything is not given to the insect will not come once again back. So there are some kind of rewards which are given to insect, so that insect can come to the flower again and again, and this process of pollination is continued for a longer period. Now nectar and pollen grains, they are useful floral rewards. So if you consider rewards, then nectar and pollen grains are the floral rewards. Now for harvesting the reward, if the insect want this reward from the flower, the animal visitor or the insect visitor will come in contact with the anther and the stigma. As soon as it comes in contact with the anther, the body of the insect or animal it gets coated with the pollen grains, which are sticky in nature. And when the animal carry this pollen on its body, it comes in contact with the stigma, and this is how the pollination would take place. So as soon as the insect comes in contact with the anther, the pollens will stick to the surface of the insect, and this insect which will carry the pollen and they will transfer to the stigma, and as a result the pollination will take place. Now, which are the other different kind of floral rewards? So here are some examples of other different kind of floral rewards. Now, in some species, floral rewards are in the form of providing safe place to lay the egg. So as in the earlier example we have gone through, that either nectar or the pollen are the floral rewards. Here in this case, for some insect, the reward may be in terms of getting a safe place to lay the egg. Example is Amorphophallus flower. Now this Amorphophallus flower, it is one of the tallest flower, which is about 6 feet in height. As a result, these insects will get a safe place to lay the egg, which is at a height of 6 feet, and this is considered as one floral reward. Another example of floral reward is a symbiotic relationship between moth and yucca plant. Now there is a relationship between moth and yucca plant where both moth as well as yucca plant, they are unable to complete their life cycle without each other. Now both have some special adaptation for insect pollination. Now moth, it deposit its egg in the locule of ovary of the flower, and while it deposits the egg, it gets pollinated by the moth. The larva of the moth will come out of the egg as the seed starts developing. So if you see here that moth will deposit the egg, this is how it completes its life cycle. And on the other hand, when the seed starts developing, then the pollination will also take place by the moth, and as the seed starts developing, the larva of the moth will come out. Now these are the two different examples of floral rewards. One is safe place to lay the egg and completing the life cycle of each other, that is moth as well as yucca plant. So in the next class we will continue with the another topic, that is outbreeding devices. Thank you very much.